All right, everybody, we are live with our Philly Tech Talk show that we call Philly.night because we are here in the evening, but we don't have a Philly.net tonight. I've got Rich Ross is here behind the camera, as always, doing a great job producing. And thank you for having us here at the Microsoft MTC in Malvern, Pennsylvania, where we normally hold our user groups. But tonight we're just going to have a chat about technology and what's coming up for the Philly.net user group, and then maybe do just a little bit of code a little bit later. So how's it going tonight, Rich?
Going well, Chris.
Awesome.
Good. Little interesting doing it without a regular old user group meeting upstairs and having to fight our way down here and get everything set up. So a little more relaxed. So.
Yeah, we didn't run down and say, okay, we made it. Let's try to get on the air as quickly as we can.
And not look rushed.
Not look like we rushed down here. And then we don't have the backdrop of, well, what did we talk about tonight? But that's okay.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot coming up. This weekend is Code Camp.
Yes.
Which is an exciting time for Philly.net. We usually have 2 every year, and this year will be no exception. So this Friday and Saturday, we have Code Camp here at the Malvern MTC. And what's super exciting is we can announce to everybody we are streaming both days of Code Camp.
Both days.
Yeah.
That's kind of a shock, right? We were just looking to do one day and.
Right. We thought we just were going to do Saturday, but we, and thanks to some of the hard work that Rich has done, we are going to be able to broadcast both Friday sessions and Saturday sessions. So let me just talk a little bit about how Code Camp works here. Our tradition here at Philly.net is on Friday, we have full day workshops, and these are presented by some of the best experts in this community. We've got Chris Love, who you may have heard on .NET Rocks talking about progressive web apps. He's going to be here talking about progressive web apps through an attendee workshop format. We've got Bill Wolf doing a complete ASP.NET Core course and introducing Blazor. Rob Kaiser is going to talk about Git. Jason Van Brackle talking about containers and Kubernetes. So we really have a lot of the local Philly experts. And what I'm super excited to announce is, like, here's our Friday schedule. As you can see, there's 9 rooms here with full days planned. And what's super exciting is I left out the Angular 101, Angular start to finish with Nick Hodges, which is in our MPR2 room. We're going to stream that on Friday.
That's going to be pretty cool. That was of all the ones that I saw up there on the Friday schedule. That was one of the ones I wanted to, would be great if we could get that content and be able to broadcast.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people will benefit from a complete look at Angular, and the fact that we will have that on our YouTube channel for replays a short time after the Code Camp, and that you can watch live, and we will take your questions and pass them along to Nick on Friday. That's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, and that, it's an intro course, it's a 101 course. So it's a chance for, if you've not used some of the cool things in Angular, or have not done an Angular project, great opportunity to get started with it.
Yeah, I'm not an Angular expert. I'm looking forward to it.
Yep.
We're going to moderate the chat, so we're going to be watching on Mixer, Twitch, and YouTube, where we multi-stream. And if you have a question, we're going to get it to Nick. So that's going to be super exciting.
And I'm sure Nick has a full day's worth of schedule going on between 8:30 and 4, which is what the time that we currently have slotted for that. But I'm sure there'll be some breaks in between where we can kind of do a little bit of catch up, just like we would do, what we're planning to do for the Saturday spot.
Yeah. So, there's going to be a lunch break. And then we may even call, some bathroom breaks or so on. And that's really up to Nick and the progress of the lab. The lab is for the attendees. And so if he kind of gets the feeling, let's take a 10-minute break, that's fine. And then we will have, we have our studio.
Yep.
And we'll see what we can do in the lunch break to keep things going.
Yeah. The beauty of all of this and why we're able to do that, just to put a plug in for some technology that's out there in case you haven't gotten a chance to play around with it. There's now I'm blanking on the term.
Well, NDI, right?
NDI, right.
Yeah.
The network display interface, basically. And what that does is that gives you the ability to, it's by NewTek, and NewTek does a lot of the equipment that we have in here. And it's basically freely available for you to install and download and put in your machines. If I bring up this machine here, yeah, this one. So the one that I'm using to stream off of my laptop, that is using NDI to do that wirelessly over our network. And that's
Yeah.
the beauty of it. So we have a network connection up in the NPR rooms, connected to the same network that the TriCaster in the studio is on. And because of that, we can basically see that as a device and use that endpoint to bring in not only the video, but the audio as well.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
which is so it's just like having us being right in the room. So that's interesting for us because we don't have to be up there to start stream. We can start stream from down here in the studio. So this might be one of those things where we do a little bit of kind of a side video to kind of talk through some of the how some of how the sausage is made, if you will,
Sure.
just to kind of walk through that. 'Cause it is pretty powerful, and it's just amazing. We used to have to take HDMI to USB connectors and this
Yeah.
hardware, the Elgato solutions, right, that you're using for the gaming, right?
Yep.
We don't have to do that anymore with these network controllers. So it's really, really, really powerful. And what's awesome, the next side of that is OBS, which is what we use to do the streaming out of. We're maybe getting a little too in the weeds with this, but the OBS software then becomes that NDI provider. So it's seen as, so whatever we say the output of the of OBS
Okay.
becomes that source video that
Okay.
we see down here.
And then that comes over the network. So
Mhm.
because before, the solution that we do use up in the NPR rooms, which are the big rooms that you see on our monthly meetups and our monthly hands-on labs, is there's a computer up there and there's a camera attached to it and all this cabling going in. But now we're down here in this really cool studio where I can pretend that I have this beautiful backdrop. But we're not. It's all the newsroom tricks, right?
Right.
But we're not running some super long cable down from there. And so we thought we were limited into what rooms we could stream because you get a direct connection from that beautiful envisioning center. But we really liked the Angular talk. I think not that the envisioning center talk was awesome too. I think we were strongly considering like, hey, we'll look at that one.
Yeah.
And the Angular talk is something that I think will serve well on the replay channel for years to come. So I'm really glad that Nick was excited about it. We're excited about it. We're happy to bring that to you on Friday.
Yeah, and I think you hit it. We talked about the Jess Chadwick video being that that content's been out there. It's coming up on a year. Well, it's over a year now because that was in March, and that is still I'm looking at today. It was like 30-40 views today. It was getting. It is that popular.
He has a intro to Razor Pages talk that was from Code Camp in April of 2018 or March of 2018. Yeah. And 3,400 views the last time I looked. The Future of C# talk from Scott K does really well. So all of the talks I think have been super successful. We had an intro to blockchain night that has been very successful.
Yeah, that keeps popping back around.
It was successful live, and I think it's also been very successful on the replays. So, but at the same time, you imagine, what are people searching for, and then our friends at Google and Bing are nice enough to serve those up for us, right?
Right.
And say, hey, go watch what Philly.net's doing, which I think is great.
And when you look and see what how people are finding us, oftentimes there's a good percentage of it that comes up from just YouTube saying, hey, you might be interested in this.
Right.
But the rest of that content or those views are coming from people finding us natively by searching for the keywords that we've got.
That's cool. So I think we have to get a little better at that. Like even tonight's broadcast, and this is we're learning every week. So your feedback is always great. Anything that you want to tell us, just put a comment right in the replay of this video.
Yep.
But we think that there's no reason somebody who's at home tonight, anywhere on the planet, if we plan to talk about something that they wanted to learn about, there's no reason Google can't say like, hey, they're live right now. So we think that the power of all this stuff together is what really makes it successful. We're streaming on 3 popular platforms, but the YouTube replays are fantastic. And I think we've had 100,000 minutes. I don't know if we talked about it on Wednesday. I think we might have.
A little bit, yeah.
100,000 minutes viewed last year over just 21 videos, and that's with us learning what we're doing as we go along, right? So super proud of the progress this year. So that's Friday. We're going to be here Friday, streaming bright and early. I think we'll probably go live. I don't think we'll do anything ahead of time. Just when Nick's ready, we'll go.
Yeah.
So approximately
for Friday.
On Friday, approximately 8:30 a.m. Saturday is our traditional code camp where there are multiple rooms and sessions that are about 70 minutes or so. I didn't actually look at the session length time before I sat down here. and multiple tracks are going, and we are going to stream an entire room.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's still maybe an open question which one. I liked NPR1, but we know we can do NPR1 or NPR2.
Yes. And technically we could swap back and forth,
That's true.
right?
Yeah.
Just a matter of, I mean, it would be a real quick break down the wall, move the equipment to the other side. Shouldn't be that big a deal, right?
That's true.
The other, I think the only, the third option, because where we were originally thinking of doing the sessions from was from the Envisioning Center, and that's because we have a hardwire connection to the cameras at this room. Those hardwire connections still exist, and where they're still feeding in here. So we have essentially 3 rooms that we could pick from, which makes the most sense for us to stream that content, do that, and move that into basically play that along. So
yeah, so these decisions were made pretty quickly. We are going to put together the schedule and the Philly.net Twitter account, which is just Philly.dotnet, Twitter.com. That is going to tweet out a schedule soon, if not tonight, tomorrow, because a lot of our promotion channels are looking for us to say, hey, what's your schedule going to be Saturday?
Yep. And if you're watching here or you catch this, say in the next 24 hours, and you have a session that you want to see us go make sure that we put on the live stream from one of those 3 rooms, NPR1, NPR2, or Envision, tweet us, put a comment in this episode, let us know, and we'll do what we can to get those votes and pick the right session that you guys want to see.
Yeah, so Saturday, 8:30 is when the first session starts. I know I'm putting you a little on the spot, but I thought we might start a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
An intro code camp.
Like 8.
So, and the Twitch event for this says 8 o'clock. I think the YouTube one might too. I'm not sure.
Yeah, when I set the event up, that's what I put in.
Yeah, so we're beginning to use these features of these platforms. Twitch has the events feature. So if you subscribe to our channel on Twitch, you should be able to see the upcoming streams. And the same thing, if you're a YouTube subscriber, you go to our channel, you're going to see upcoming broadcasts. And we're going to get better at keeping that schedule nice and full so you can see where we're going in the future. But hey, we're learning about these awesome features and saying, yeah, let's help our longtime users, people who are watching our viewers, and keep up with what's going on. So yeah, Saturday's going to be great. In between sessions, there's 15-minute breaks, and last time we had a lot of success having speakers come in, talk about their talks for a short amount of time. Yeah. That was a lot of fun.
That was a blast.
And it keeps things moving. And then there's a lunch hour in there where we can continue to do that, and then we'll wrap things up just before we head over to the after party. One of the things that's great about Philly.net Code Camp, if you've never been here or even if you have, is we've been fortunate in the past to have some great after parties where we can all go and continue talking about the day or just get to know the other folks in our community. And this time we're having them both Friday and Saturday, so that's going to be fantastic. Usually, you and I last time we got out of here and then got over there a little bit late, but it was great. It was great to be here and wrap things up. So I'm excited about that too.
Same. And there's a lot of fun planned for that. I think we're playing around a little bit with the studio as well. I know you're sitting in a different. You're not standing this time.
We've got you
today. Sitting.
Good.
What we're also looking to do is we talked about maybe the area out there that is couch friendly and all that. But in thinking through it, maybe we could do this all in here. Let's see if I can show this real quick.
Oh, I see.
So we can do that and then bring that over. So that's a little high where it above, but that is essentially the wall 90 degrees to where Chris is.
Right.
And it's just going to be an open space that we're going to put the couch, and we'll have the ability to bring people in through there and be able to have them on the stream as well.
Okay.
So, trying some different things out.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. I didn't even notice the other camera set up over there.
Right.
I can go over. So people are looking at a wall right now. What Rich is talking about right here. The camera's got to be positioned.
Yeah, a little bit high, a little bit lower.
Figure like
that.
Cool.
Just a real set as opposed to where you are when you sit down over there. Let me sit first before I switch.
Okay.
There you go. So we have a good bit of space here, which is awesome, and a good bit of technology, and it gives us the ability to try some stuff, which is part of the reason we like doing this, because ability to see what's possible. So
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
yeah, so that's cool. So that's Code Camp. That's kind of some of the things we've got going on. Um, I think I mean, there's some things that we have to talk about the channel. You know, whether what do we call this little show of ours? Those kind of
Yeah.
things. You know, and we had the interesting start to the last session, but
Yeah, I mean, so this is our first experiment with doing the show on an off night.
yeah,
Philly.net's not here. And what's unique about April is we did our hands-on lab last week, and that's it for April because the month of a code camp we don't have a presentation meeting.
yeah,
So that means a couple more weeks where we can come in and continue with our own segment, maybe talking about some of the stuff from Code Camp, having guests. That's a place where I would like to take this. Is we've had Andy call in. That was a good test for us to make sure we can do it. But there is a incredible community, folks that we know in this area, and folks we don't even know that I would love to have on. People who I think are interested in what we're doing, but I just think they're voices we should hear from.
mm-hmm.
So, I think we're getting a little bit better. We'll figure out how to get them on. The time zone things could be interesting. Maybe sometimes we might consider pre-recording if maybe this time is either very late for them
Right,
or even could be very early for them.
sure.
On the West Coast, right now it's 5:30, and I growing up on the West Coast, I know that means that I'm probably sitting in traffic, so not
Nice.
not able to join the show then. So yeah, we definitely want to hear from viewers. What are some of the other things that we've been working on? I know that we don't have our own. We have the Philly.net Twitter account. We don't have our own. I think that might be okay.
Yeah,
Um, and then a lot of streams, popular for streams to use Discord, which is Discord is a what would you think of Discord as? It's sort of kind of maybe Slack, Skype, IRC,
yeah, it's
but
got a little
none
bit
of
of all
those
that.
things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it certainly has the flavor of Teams, in that you can do, channels inside of there, much like you can, inside of a group area inside of Slack as well. Um, Anybody can kind of get invited in. There are permalinks so that we can basically create a permalink for this channel, have that be there, and just use that chat ongoing so people can see the conversation whenever they pop in and out. What's also cool as a way to bring in other people to the conversation here is that you get a voice
Yes.
and that
Right.
ability to do voice and video right out of that that service.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, I haven't used Slack in a little while, but I remember one of the things that about Slack that I always found frustrating was each Slack team was technically its own login.
Yeah.
Now you could get an app where you could get all the teams together, but I found myself managing a lot of separate logins. I guess it doesn't have to be that way. You could use the same username, email over and over, but there were other instances where maybe that didn't make sense.
Yep.
And Discord, the channels can all be in your application, your one login, and they're all lined up on one side. And so I'm looking at my screen right now and seeing that, man, I have.
Can I share your screen?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I have a lot of Slack channels going. What I'm showing here is actually the Fritz and Friends Discord, which
okay.
our friend Jeff Fritz.
I didn't know he had one.
Yeah,
All right.
he has his own Discord, which makes sense. He's a popular live streamer, streaming code Tuesdays, Thursdays, and I believe Fridays.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that his schedule was Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Last night he did an evening stream. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so the folks that are active in his channel, they come here and they have a place to chat. But the other thing about Discord is a very friendly API that people are linking into everything. So one of the things that he has in his channel is if somebody makes a pull request or a commit to the Git repos that are being worked on his stream, it comes up in one of the channels. So you kind of have this record of what's going on. That's pretty common.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea will be, is it time for a Philly.net one? We'll see. That's pretty common. And again, like you said, it's a great way that people could, if they're familiar with Discord, they could talk to us on there. Oftentimes, you can even use it as like a radio talk show format where if somebody has a question and they join the Discord, they can go into a green room and then we can bring them up.
Yep.
And they could join the conference. That would be interesting to take a call that way.
Yeah.
That might be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Now I think there's a lot of potential there. That's the way I'm looking at it, and that's why I wanted to start kicking the tires around it, and use this as maybe a way to kind of start that, because we're on a couple of different streams, and right now while Restream gives you a little bit of that ability to munge all of the various IM chats together.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a hiccupish next to it, right? It's not perfect. So right now we've got 3 different windows open: one for Twitch, one for Mixer, and one for YouTube, right? And just trying to keep a handle on everything that everybody's doing. I think if we could kind of rally everybody around Discord and have that one place, that would be a really cool thing to use that and have that be there for everybody. But then it requires them to go ahead and sign up for their account, essentially.
Yep. No, that's true. Not completely frictionless.
But there are some integrations, right? There's YouTube integration. So if people have subscribed to your channel, I believe, then they're able to use that login to access the Discord for your channel. There is a similar thing inside of Twitch. Do that as well. So both of those seem to have some kind of an integration. But I don't know that we would definitely rely on that as that people have to. So some of the things that we'll continue to play with and try out here, and maybe in the next couple of weeks, probably we'll be a little rested, I think, after the weekend of festivities, but maybe the following week.
Yeah, no, I think that's going to be good. So, what else do we have? There's some other events that I know we want to talk about. Do we want to do that now?
You want?
Or maybe
we can shift
gears for a little bit.
Yeah, let's save the other event things for the end. And why don't we? I know you were interested in talking a little bit about some of the cool stuff you were seeing in C#8, right?
Yeah. So I think one of the things I want to do, I think we want to do in this show, is that it's not trying to, we're not trying to code the whole time, but I do think that a segment that we might even informally call 15 minutes of code, give or take 15 minutes,
right,
could be good every time. It doesn't mean that we would concentrate on it. Maybe some shows we would, some shows we wouldn't. Maybe it depends on what the guest wants to do, if we have a guest. But in this case, I thought it might be nice, as a reference point, we start off by exploring some features of C#8. And the great thing about C#8 is that each of these features are little bite-sized things. I don't think it'll take us very long to talk about. And so in order to get started, I'm going to use the Visual Studio 2019 preview. But I want to talk to you about how you can enable these features in your own test app. Because if you just open up Visual Studio 2017, 2019 and say, hey man, I want to try out some C#8 features, you might struggle a little bit, as Rich saw me doing, with how you get them set up. So how would I get started? Well, if you just search for C#8 features, and let's just see what comes out of Google here. Okay, I've got what's new in C#8 from the Microsoft Docs. I've got a great video with Mads Torgerson from December. I actually did watch this video. Hey, this is what I love here. Look at Packet Video 2 days ago. This is the great thing about that. But here are a couple links you can see I've already visited because they're in purple. The Building C#8 link from the .NET blog, and then Take C#8 for a Spin. So I just want to bring up one of them. This is from Microsoft. This is the .NET blog. Mads Torgerson saying, let's take C#8 for a spin. Okay, so how do you do this? Well, the easiest way I think to do it is to use Visual Studio 2019 Preview, which I have sitting right here. I'm going to let that open up. So before I really burst into 2019 Preview, maybe you're going to ask the same question I'm about to answer, but go ahead.
Why are you using Preview?
Why am I using Preview? Okay, that's a good question. The reason is that, first of all, in order to use C#8, and this is in a blog post, this is in the building, I believe it's in the building C# blog post, but we'll just talk about it here. So C#8, first of all, it's coming out alongside .NET Standard 2.1 and .NET Core 3.0.
Right.
So The important thing to note there is if you don't have Visual Studio 2019 Preview, by default, you're not going to be able to use .NET Core 3 Preview.
Okay.
Now, can you use it with Visual Studio 2019 release? You can, and in our last hands-on lab, we talked about how to do that. There's a checkbox that you enable, but I think I'll skip that.
Point like this, because I will put a link to your...
Oh, yeah, so over here.
Other side.
So we're going to go over here,
yeah,
where later we can show you the link to the hands-on lab video. I'll have to remember that trick. This was what we just did last week. But I think that for me, and just to keep it kind of simple, if I go to the Visual Studio installer, if you go download Visual Studio 2019, you're going to get this great thing, the Visual Studio installer. Now, check this out. I already had Visual Studio 2017 on here, and guess what? Still here and available for me to look at or modify or launch or update. Here's Visual Studio Enterprise 2019. An update just came out. I haven't installed it yet. We'll hold off on that. And then side by side, I also have Preview.
Yep.
But what none of these, even after doing this, you still need to go get the .NET Core 3 Preview. And the home of .NET is dot.net. I just remember that. I type in dot.net, and here I am at the home of .NET. I can click on Download. I've got my choice between .NET Core and .NET Framework, and they are both talking about the latest and greatest versions. So I got to jump down a little bit and say that I want looking for a different version. And I go, yep, I'm looking for a different version. I want to see all the .NET Core versions, and here it is, .NET Core 3.0. Got to install that. And once you've installed that, it'll light up in the tooling. The tooling is just a fancy way of me saying Visual Studio Enterprise 2019 Preview. That's a mouthful. I could get it working in the release product. I'm going to skip that for now. Let's create a brand new project. Here's this new file, new project look. When you open Visual Studio, I get this view of all my recent projects. And then you might look over here and say, well, where's the new stuff? Well, I had to scroll down a little bit. There it is. I could continue without opening any code, but let's go ahead and create a new project. Boy, this looks different too. Where did the old list of projects template types down the left side, where did they go? Well, for now, they're all sitting over here. I happen to want this first one, Console App and .NET Core. But let me have a little bit of fun here. What if I typed WinForms into this search bar? I can create a WinForms app like I always did for .NET Framework. Look at this, a Windows Forms app in .NET Core. That's part of .NET Core 3, which you've got to have the preview installed for this to light up. But I'm okay with just a plain old console app. So I'm going to say next, and let's call it what I want to talk about in C#8 are called nullable references. So I'm going to just make this project. I'm going to call it nullable refs. So what the heck is nullable references? You know, when we did the Static Void podcast, we did a whole show on null. My two co-hosts thought there's no way we're going to talk about null for an hour, and boy, they were wrong. We talked about it for an hour and a half.
Right.
We talked about, you know, nulls in the language, nulls in the platform. What are the dangers of it? Null reference exception, sometimes the most common exception we all see.
Yep.
And there are some languages that have gotten rid of it. There's just no way to null. A lot of functional languages might do that. So what would C# look like if null was, if not banned, close to banned? Well, I got to turn this on because right now, today, this simple console app, I could very easily say string s. I could just do that. So what does that mean? What if I just say string s, I set a breakpoint and I run this, what's s going to be? S is, find out, we're going to hover over it, it's null. I didn't do anything. That's probably really small. I'll have to work on that environment font, so that's a little bit bigger. But if I just write this code, the string s is null. Now, it turns out we get a little bit of help from our friends in the base class library. If I were to just say the string value is, and I use one of my favorite features, string interpolation. And I got to put a little $sign in front to make that go.
Yeah.
If I do nothing more than this, pretty sure about this. Not, it's live television, right? So it's saying here, look, this variable's unassigned. Like this should be bad news city. Like, isn't it going to blow up?
Right.
Oh, that's an error. All right, well then let's assign it. Let's go ahead and assign it null. Go ahead and do that. Trying to use a null reference, but it actually didn't break. And it's console.writeLine that's protecting us here.
Okay.
So that's not the greatest example, right? So let's do this instead. Let's say, let's take the string and uppercase it. Let's not break it. Let's say hello there audience is our string. And string to upper is just going to make that all uppercase. So I run it real quick and I get hello there audience. Sure enough, no problem. But now, what if for some reason I was past the null value or I just didn't write very good code? Now I'm trying to operate on that string type, that
right.
S. I can't call a method on it. It's null, blows up. Our famous null reference exception. We've seen that way too many times.
Mm-hmm.
So first step, you want to try C#8 features? Let's go and we'll do this the Visual Studio way. First of all, we're in .NET Core 3. So take a look at this. I right click and I say edit nullable refs.csproj. If you're a little bit of a .NET framework veteran, you might be saying, hold on a second, you can't do that without unloading the project. Ah, but I can in .NET Core 3 and the new csproj file type. Look at this clean csproj where the GUIDs are gone, the explicit naming of every file is gone.
Yep.
What kind of app is this? Oh, it's a .NET Core 3.0 app. What's the output type? It's an exe. All those old, did you ever used to have the GUID table where you'd look up, like, well, wait a second, what is this again? Oh, yeah. It's a unit test project type, and that's all gone. This is beautiful, right? Well, by default, if you don't put anything here, we're going to find out the answer to this right now, but I think off the top of my head, you get the latest minor release of C#. Well, let's find out. Let's go back to Solution Explorer. We'll do it the Visual Studio way. I right-click and I pick Properties, and then I got to switch to the Build tab. Scroll down to the bottom, and hiding down here is Advanced. Sitting in here, latest supported minor version. That's what it was. That's the default. If you do nothing, if your csproj says nothing. Let's change this to C#8 beta. Look, I have a lot of options here.
Yeah.
And I can go back to the ISO versions, like, which I'm sorry, I don't think any of us are going to do this. We could say C#4 or 5, 7.3, 7.2 had some cool stuff in it. Let's look at C#8. We're going to turn that on. I turn on C#8. Okay, now that I've done that, let's run back to the csproj and take a look. Lang version is a node that we can put in our csproj files. We can, if we didn't have Visual Studio, maybe I'm in VS Code, maybe I'm on a Mac, and I'm not using Visual Studio for Mac. Maybe I'm in a Linux machine. Here we go. I could just put that in. I didn't need the IDE to do this. So I've turned on C#8. That's all I need to do, right? Let's go. Let's head back over. Let's head over to program.cs. And here we go. Here we go, Visual Studio. Warn me about these nullable types. I'm not seeing any squigglies here. I'm seeing remove this unused parameter. I don't get it. It doesn't. I thought I turned on C#8.
Yeah.
I did. Here's the problem, though, and here's the interesting thing about nullable references. This new warning or way to tell you that you're maybe in trouble with null. If this was turned on by default, it would break a lot of code because there's a ton of code in the universe that's going to accept nulls, work with nulls. And what if you have warnings as errors on? Your code suddenly doesn't compile.
Right.
So we don't want to break the world. So instead, for existing projects, you have to opt in. And if you're reading the blog post for MADS, you say, I'm going to try this myself. I'm going to try this. I'm going to set nullable reference types to true, just like it says here in the blog post. And you'll go and punch that in. let me find the one we're working on. And it says in the blog post that all you do is just add this right after lang version. And this still isn't going to do anything because they changed this node since Mad's blog post. How did I find that out? In the what's new for in docs.microsoft.com. And hey, this is a lesson to us. We should look at the docs.
Yep.
Sometimes the docs aren't quite there yet. Here's a tutorial, working with nullable reference type. And it tells you as I was scrolling down, oh, they changed the name. Okay, and I actually like this. I think this is a better name. Nullable context options, even though that's a mouthful, set to enable. The problem that I kind of had with this older thing, the older version name here, is this actually sort of, if you look at this and you don't know what it says, it kind of leads you to believe, so you're telling me that now I can set reference types to null. Wait a second. I've been able to do that since the beginning of time in C#. What did you? This
right. What's different?
Yeah. While this is a mouthful, no doubt about it. Let me get the cut and paste from the tutorial. This is a little bit of a mouthful, but at least what it's telling you is the options in C# to detect null references and possible issues is now enabled. I've now turned that on. And according to the documentation, something that Mad said in his blog post that we weren't going to do, apparently it is going to be done. Microsoft and the team is going to file new project, put this in there to encourage you to be null aware and null safe. Maybe not use them unless you really, really mean it. So now that I've done this and I've saved the CS proj, look at that. We get our first squiggly, and that really small text says, you have a possible null value here, and it's getting pointed to a non-nullable type.
Yep.
That reference type, string S, by default now should not be null, and the compiler's helping you with detecting that. So you say, well, wait a second, you might be dereferencing a null reference here. Okay, wow. Well, what can I do about it? Well, first of all, I guess the easy thing, right, just put in a value here, and the compiler's smart enough to say this S can never be null because you explicitly declared it,
right? And
furthermore, you only used it, you didn't change it, you didn't accept it as a value in a method, anything like that. So let's do something like that. Let's see how the compiler might be smart here. What if I say let's make a method called some method. It's not going to be very smart. Yep. All it's going to do is it's just going to get back a value S, which we know is a string. And why do we know that? Because I'm about to declare that method, and we'll just say string some method. It doesn't take any parameters, and all it does is it returns, well, first of all, I'm going to have to declare some string. So we're going to say string temp equals null, because we're going to do it, this is bad news, and we're going to go ahead and return it. But this is the deal, right? When you call a method, you don't know. You might get back null. There's no reason any method returning a reference can return null.
Right. That's why you would always do the, is null or empty before you go on and do anything else with it.
You got to check that stuff out. Well, these are errors right now because it's telling you, hold on a second. Let's try and build this. Let's see what happens. An object reference is required, right? It says you can't do this. Well, so sometimes you might really want to allow nulls. How do you do that in this world? If I add a question mark, and then I've also got to do it here, because I'm basically telling the compiler, it's okay. I might want to actually use nulls here. Putting a question mark here, see, did I do this right? Is now saying, yeah, all right, this method is fine, but I still have a problem because, this is a reference, and I'm going to automatically decide that, you needed to return a reference here and you didn't, because I've got some code a little bit later that's going to blow up, right? So all along, all through this process, it's helping me. I think it's going to let me do this. Maybe not. An object reference is required. What am I doing wrong here? This can be public. That's probably got nothing to do with it. I'm returning a temp. It's not letting me do it, but that might be okay. Is it that I have to use this operator? No. Okay, we're not going to get into that. So in any case, what I want to do is swap out to another example where I've already got this stuff going because I want you to look at some code examples here.
Okay.
In this case, we've used this operator to say it's okay. I'm cool with s being null. You might want to avoid this, but let's say it was required. And now we're saying, well, what's the first letter of s? And oh, look at another C# feature we'll talk about another time called ranges, where instead of using the substring or the find one of or anything like that, it's just indexing right in, right? We're used to doing this in strings, but next time we'll talk about how this same nomenclature can be used for ranges. It's pretty cool. Kind of, if you're a Python developer, you might be used to it. So we're not allowed to do this. It says you might be dereferencing a null reference. So what if we wrote our code this way and we checked if it was null? The compiler's smart enough to now not care. It says, that's fine because you checked. I'm okay with it. You checked to make sure. Let's just put this in its own brace structure. Not that that's required. You checked to make sure that S wasn't null. So I'm going to allow this. I'm not going to complain to you. I'm going to let this code compile because it's still safe.
Right.
Here's another thing you might do. What if you didn't want to write the code this way? What if instead you wanted to write it and use what we know as the null coalescing operator, right? That's the 2 question mark, where the null coalescing operator says, first evaluate this, and if it turns out to be null, if S turns out to be null, then don't evaluate the 0 index. And if this whole thing turns out to be null, then we got a default value ready to go.
Okay.
The compiler once again looks at this and says, yeah, you've got all your bases covered. I'm going to allow it. If I just took this out, it should complain because it says now, I think what it should do is I thought it would complain here and say, no, you haven't accounted for the case where this turns out to be null. But I'm not seeing a complaint there. That could be maybe coming. Yeah, it'll let me do it. But now if I take this out, go back to this, that should be a problem, right? Yep, it's a problem because it says you might be dereferencing a null reference. So the whole point of what is being called nullable references is if you turn it on, the compiler looks after you to make sure that when you call methods, that one of 2 things. You call the method and you're checking that the return value isn't null, or does the method itself promise not to return null because it didn't return a type with the question mark afterward? Putting those 2 pieces together should allow you to write new code that can't throw a null reference exception.
Nice.
Which would be wonderful. Yeah. You try to do this on old code. I don't think that it won't work. I just think that you'll probably have some work ahead of you. And that could be a good thing for your team to do as well.
Right. It might be something that you do as part of, the sprint where we got to do this feature, this in this project. Let's go ahead and do the update. And while we're at it, we'll make sure that this is going to be in place.
So you got to opt into it. And the easiest way to opt in is I showed, in the project file using the Visual Studio way. You can go find that in the build tab, or you got to turn on C#8, turn on nullable context options, and you are using nullable references. That's it. It's cool. I'm excited about it because I have been of the mindset for a little while, for a few years, and I argued about this on the Static Web podcast show we did, which was I think we just shouldn't set things to null. I understand that as developers, we might say to ourselves, okay, well, what about the case of like a person's name? You might have a first name, a middle name, a last name, but you don't have to have a middle name.
Right.
Right? But so isn't that null? And my feeling is kind of like, well, first of all, I think that smacks a little bit of primitive obsession to me. I'd rather have a name type. If I'm in a language like C#, I'd rather have a name type. And I want that type to take care of it for me. I want it to, if I'm going to go ahead and have a name type, it might as well know how to display itself and so on and just do everything correctly so that I, as the developer, don't have to I don't want to test that type and say like, hold on, I want to print out first plus middle plus last, but oh, I'd better check to make sure middle isn't null.
Right.
I kind of don't want to live in that world. I want to, if I'm going to use a language like C#, let me let the object be an object. Like say a URI object, right? The URI object can be initialized with a string, But then after that, I can interrogate it and say, well, what's your host? What's your port? What's, you know, and that's kind of how I want to write my code anyway. So now I have a language feature that's actually looking after me and helping me. I'm going to be a big fan.
Right.
And you at home, you watching on now or on replay, let us know what you think. I wouldn't be surprised at all if some people aren't happy, and that's okay. I'm not here to
it's
tell you. Right.
It's optional, right? You can throw it in or not at this point.
Yeah. But from what I've read, I was a little surprised to read this. It says right here. Here we go. So I'm looking at this tutorial. This is in docs.microsoft.com, where the C# guide is talking about C# 8 introducing nullable reference types. And we scroll down a little bit and we see this. When C# 8 is released, and it's not in preview, the nullable context option will be added by new project template. So they're gonna go ahead and take the plunge, which I think if we really went looking in here, we would see where it says, no, we're not gonna do that.
But that just puts the node in your project.
Yeah.
You can always make it
you can go
false or
you
true.
can turn it
right.
or take it out.
Yeah.
Right. You can get rid of it. You can go take it out, but like they say here, it is our intention that you use this on existing code.
Mm-hmm.
You might get a lot of warnings, and maybe you find some bugs. So they're excited about it. I'm excited about it.
I can tell. That's the first thing we're talking about when we start talking about new C# 8 features, and that's what you bring to.
That's the one I brought. I was excited. So I don't know if it was 15 minutes, but there you go. Maybe it was more.
It was a little bit. Yeah.
I'll get better at keeping it 15.
We're gonna put a clock on the TV screen behind me so you can see where we are. But no, this was good. And sometimes those things take a little bit to kind of walk through and really show the value prop around those as well. So it was good.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I'm glad you liked it. So yeah. I guess before we go, we've got some awesome events to talk about.
Yeah,
besides Code Camp.
There's a few things coming up. Code Camp right now is top of mind for all of us. So that's coming up this weekend. Join the live stream, as we've talked about. But there are some other events coming over 2 weeks later. There's a event. Let me see up on our screen here. So this is, I believe this is the 4th time we've done this. But this is Global Azure Boot Camp.
Global Azure Boot Camp, yeah.
And I believe it's the 4th time we've done this here. Or maybe 4th time overall, 3rd time we've done it here. I think that's how it's working for us. So essentially, this is a day of Azure learning, Azure workshop, taught by Microsoft employees, MVPs, Microsoft MVPs, of which Chris is one of those. And they're basically spending a day session on the Saturday, but doing it all around the world. So, hundreds of different sites around the world, talking to many thousands and tens of thousands of different developers at these events, and being able to share with them the knowledge about how to build and work inside of Azure. So if you're interested in that, Global Azure Bootcamp is the main site. You can find all of the various sites regardless of where you're watching the stream from. If you go out to Eventbrite, we actually have the one that we're doing here in our office in the Philadelphia area. Specifically, we're out in Malvern, but we call ourselves Philadelphia MTC. And you're able to go out here and sign up for that session. So it'll be a great day of content. I think we're going to stream that live as well.
Okay, great.
So if you can't make it out here, we'll at least do one of the 2 track sessions over our stream. So we'll at least have that content to share, which we did last year as well for the first time. So we're getting in the habit of doing those, streaming these meetings out live for you guys. The other event that is coming up, and I don't have that link handy, but that is also up on Eventbrite, and that is something called Azure Data Fest.
Okay.
So that is coming soon. Let's see.
And there was an Azure Data Fest last fall.
Yep.
I think, and it was recorded or streamed, maybe both.
We did stream it, and that's sitting up on our Philly.night.
Yeah,
it has its own playlist.
Yep.
And I'm not seeing that. So I can't seem to find Philadelphia. Oh, there we go. Try that. There.
Ooh.
Yeah, that was interesting. I kind of caught it in half stream. There we go. 2019 Azure Data Fest. So that conference is there for you to sign up for. That's on the May 17th. So that's going to be another full day with multiple tracks of big data and analytic talk specifically for things. Great bunch of speakers coming through for that. Some Microsoft, some in the MVP in the community there too. The other event that we have coming, I don't have anything to show to talk about it because we're still in the process of putting the registration and those pieces up. But we're going to Philly Tech Week is coming up the week of I believe it goes from May 3rd to May 11th. So it goes over the 2 weekends there. But during that week of the 6th, we're going to have a day of event here that'll get promoted through the Philly Tech Week channels as
Right.
well. We're in the process of finalizing what that content is and what day that's going to be. And hopefully by the time we get to the Code Camp sessions this weekend, we'll be able to tell you what those are and what's going to be what specific sessions we'll have. So
yeah, that'll be great to be part of Philly Tech Week.
yeah,
Every year I kind of want to be a part of it, and then it sneaks up on me, and then it's gone.
yeah.
And I go, oh well.
Kind of missed that one. And
Yeah.
it's an interesting week because it's the same week as Build. So some of the discussions or things that we were thinking about was, well, do we do almost like a watch party for Build? But then that's also because it's on the West Coast, it's 3 hours behind, so you wouldn't start till noon and then go late. So we kind of shelve those ideas, and we have a couple of other ideas around some workshops and some hackathons that would be interesting for people to come out and take advantage of. So
Okay.
more about that definitely by the weekend and certainly for the following shows to kind of promote those. That's coming up. It's only about 3 weeks away, 3 or 4 weeks away.
No,
So-
that's great. Yeah, so between Azure Data Fest, Global Azure Bootcamp, great.
Mm-hmm.
And then we know we'll be back in the monthly meeting cycle for Philly.net, first Wednesday in May.
Yeah.
And ASP.NET Lab, ASP.NET Core. Bill Wolf is going to be leading that content.
Yeah.
And then June and July, continuing with our ASP.NET Core Lab. The content's to be announced, but it's because we're figuring it out. We sit down and we say, okay, what should we do in June, and what do we think will take about 2 hours, and then sometimes we're informed a little bit by what we didn't get to in a lab.
Oh yeah.
Because last time the intention was to take a quick preview of .NET Core 3 on the desktop, but live share was so great that we just kept going with live share. And so I think a future lab could take a look at that. We're going to let that mature a little bit too. We'll see what's announced at Build.
Mm-hmm.
But we know that that's a big thing. .NET Core 3 supporting WinForms and WPF on Windows. That's people may not move right away, but it'll be one of the first times to really take a hard look and say, maybe we consider, at least taking a look at some of those .NET Framework apps. Can we get them over to .NET Core?
Yeah.
And the one thing I'm super excited about in .NET Core 3 is the self-contained exe. I think that could be a game changer for folks that really have trouble installing their Windows applications. I mean, what if I could just say, well, here, just run the exe.
Yeah, right.
That's it.
You're
done. Right? If you really, really like it, throw a shortcut at it. I mean, I don't care.
That would be interesting because that's one of the things we're working on now and getting an app deployed across a couple of multiple centers that we have inside of our environment, and trying to push that down through, I believe they're trying to push it down through Intune.
Okay.
And do that the way so that it lands on all of the corporate or the domain joined device.
Yeah.
So there's some cool things there.
We've come a long way from when you installed a Windows app. Half the battle was figuring out what COM objects you needed to install and get that into the registry, and probably some OCXs, like maybe you were installing Flash or something. I hope we're getting there, because that was obviously the web took a lot of that too.
Right.
But there's still a good use for desktop applications, and if we can take the pain out of installing them, that might be very interesting.
Definitely. I mean, there's a lot of people who have that skill set, and that's when they think file a new project, that's where they go. It's not the the MVC or the .NET Core stuff we're kind of used to doing.
No, I agree. So some great events. Code Camp on Friday, 8 o'clock. 8:30 on Friday. I almost blew it there. 8:30 on Friday, 8 o'clock on Saturday. We're going to be learning Angular on Friday, and then our streaming schedule for Saturday will be out very soon. But we can look at the schedule right now.
Yeah.
It's Philly. I mean, I know you can bring it up, but anyone can look at it. I know it's at Philly.net.org.
/2019-1.html.
Yeah, we gotta find a way to make that easier to find, but that's okay.
Agreed.
The Saturday schedule. What have we got on the Saturday schedule? There is some great looks, like some of the early sessions you're showing right there. A tour of the .NET Core CLI. That's one I'm excited about. Using Unity to build an augmented reality app.
I'm kind of partial to that, given the HoloLens stuff that I play around with here. So I would love to see that one.
Yeah.
So we got to vote for each one right now.
Right, and then over in Envision is programming Azure Service Fabric. Azure DevOps. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff here. If you're coming out Saturday, you absolutely will not be disappointed.
Yeah.
Looking at we can't quite see over on the right where Kevin Goff.
Yep.
T-SQL querying puzzles. Kevin I've seen Kevin for years, one of the foremost experts on T-SQL and SQL Server. So having him here is definitely a privilege. Sarah Patrick is coming back to talk about using SharePoint Flow Power App to build a speaker database. We interviewed her last time to talk about this.
Yeah.
She's amazing. She actually maybe we'll get a chance to talk to her about this again. She's been doing a lot of work with Tech Girls, which is it's a nonprofit that has chapters and programs nationwide, but they have a strong Philly presence.
Yes.
I've done a couple workshops with them. I think it's fantastic. It's targeted at doing workshops for middle school age girls, and I know she's done a ton of work with them. I'd love to talk to her about that.
Yeah. Do we have Tech Girls come out for one of our kids' camps a couple years ago, because it was in the old NPRs.
Yeah, for 2 years in a row, we asked Tech Girls to nominate girls that they might not have been middle school anymore, but you could kind of consider them alumni of their program.
Mm-hmm.
And 1 year, both of the speakers were from Tech Girls. One of them talked to us about a programming language called processing.
Okay.
I'd never heard of it, but it was fantastic because it kind of reminded me a little bit of the logo days.
Okay.
And I mean, I'm really dating myself there to talk about moving the turtle around.
Yep.
But this was a far cry from moving a turtle around. There was complex 2D and 3D shapes and fractals that she was demonstrating, building complete programs. And then another young lady showed us how to use Makey Makey, which is with Scratch.
Right.
Makey Makey is a physical. It's a product where you can add physical reactions. Like, let's say I want to use Scratch, and what if I want to make like a piano keyboard out of bananas?
Okay.
And she could do it, and she showed it to us. It was really great. And then we had some other speakers come out of there. So Tech Girls has been great. We ask them every year if they have someone, and it's almost unfortunate that for now we only have 2 youth volunteers for Kids Can Code in June,
right? Because
that's beginning to grow, and I'm seeing more and more of our local youth interested. And I think, maybe in some future there could be a kids code camp. I don't know. I mean, nothing's being announced today, but
it would be nice if we could get to that point.
I get asked a lot about it, like how do we expand this? And I think it's growing, and we'll get more people interested. So.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, cool.
What else we got? Just on the schedule. I love seeing stuff like this. I love seeing Mike Maluski's 10 a.m. using .NET Core on Google Cloud. I like stuff like that because a lot of times it's easy for us to find like the pure end-to-end Microsoft story talk. And I think it's cool to say, well, hold on a second. Maybe you're using AWS at work already, or maybe you're using Google Cloud at work already. Well, hey, let's use it, right? And let's learn about it at Code Camp. So there's a lot of great stuff here. Learning how to, I love this one too. Advanced indexing for the accidental DBA. And Sebastian is a great speaker.
He is really, really good.
And so I know this is going to be a knowledge-packed talk. And how many of us didn't become the accidental DBA because Well,
inherited something, right?
yeah, someone's got to figure out how to get stuff into SQL Server or whatever relational database, right?
Absolutely.
Azure Web Apps for beginners, an Alexa skill development. Again, I love that. Going off the board, we're still using a language we love, but here's a product that's important to all of us.
Yep.
Alexa.
And that's John who did a talk back in November-ish or December.
Yeah, right.
Around those skills. So chance to see that in person if we weren't able to see the join him when he was out here. It's a really good talk.
C#8 with Scott K, object-oriented JavaScript with Ken Dale, because a lot of us developers, we got to understand JavaScript whether we like it or not.
Yep.
Sophia Lysenko is back with the machine learning talk on Azure.
Yeah.
And she's told me that she's added a couple other pieces to it. Sophia was great. Some time has gone by, so she's still definitely, high school aged. But it's amazing. She went up. She was the expert in the room on machine learning. I'm new to machine learning. And I stood in the back of the room and I watched, and I got to admit, a lot of the conversation was beyond me. But people were asking her about the different types of algorithms you might use, when you might choose them, and what languages to write, code in. And I mean, she knows. She's an expert on this. She's coming. The kids can code, and she's going to do a lab on machine learning for our youth.
Oh, cool!
Fantastic. She's done it before. I have a ton of confidence in her. It's going to be great.
Yeah, no doubt.
So this is going to be fantastic. I like this other one, the Busy Developer's Guide to Upgrading to .NET Core. I'm looking forward to that because I feel like, right? I've got .NET Framework at work. I own an app. I own a bunch of apps. We got to get work done.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to seeing, what that is about, to understand, hey, you're busy. You probably could use a too long didn't read primer on what should we do. It's not enough to just say, well, just go convert your app. No, there's probably some good tips or tricks. Like,
definitely,
what should you do? What's the right thing to do first?
Right, because if you're coming from that, whether it's the .NET Framework background, things are a little bit different in this world. You can take advantage of some of those things that you may not have been aware of when you first wrote your app.
Right. So I think, I'm being totally unfair to all these other fantastic talks, but Saturday's going to be great. Yeah,
there's no shortage of things to see around here. That's for sure.
So hope you're coming, and if not, then join us. We're going to have a lot of cool stuff.
Absolutely, it'll be a blast. So rest up.
Yeah,
it'll be a busy couple days.
Yeah.
So I guess until then, we'll sign off, and we'll see you guys all bright and early Friday morning.
Going to get a good night's sleep Thursday. Thanks to everyone for joining us today. If you're watching us on replay, then thanks again for checking out this content. Anything you liked, tell us about in the comments. If you liked this video and you like what we're doing, please hit the like so we know that it's a vote to say keep doing this kind of content. And subscribe to the channel so that you'll know that when we've got a new video up for you. Watch us on Mixer, Twitch, or YouTube. Follow us on Twitter. That's what the world's like now.
Yep.
See us in all these different places, but we're here for you. And so, Rich, thanks for being here behind the camera.
Yeah.
Thanks for the conversation tonight.
No worries. Lots of fun. Let's do it again.
Hope you all had a good time.
Thanks, Chris.
We'll see you.
Bye.